Hello from Sydney, where I've been doing a bit of cycling. If you've been following my updates and videos, you probably know that I did quite a bit of cycling on my trip. And yeah, it's definitely not the same here. Not only is Sydney lacking in bike lanes, but what counts as a dedicated bike lane here is kind of crazy to me. So, Victoria Road, one of the main roads leading into the city, has what Google Maps defines as a dedicated bike lane. And this is what it is. Yep, it's just a footpath with a bicycle logo painted on it. Which means you face all sorts of problems, not just that you're riding on the same path as pedestrians, but things like the surface of the road not being flat because it's a footpath. And you get things like posts or poles in the middle of the footpath, or you have to like cycle around a bus stop. And if you look on Google Maps, there are sections of roads that have dedicated bike lanes, but they're only for like a couple hundred meters, and then you have to rejoin the local traffic anyway. So yeah, if it sounds like catering to cyclists is a bit of an afterthought in Sydney, it's probably because it is. I mean, I saw this so clearly when I went on a recreational cycle with my friend Ambika.
So we have to first get up to Mossman, then we go up to Bayview, then we go up to Akuta Bay, and then we come back down.
Yes, it was a good experience riding in 3-lane traffic with absolutely no bike lanes. But it was a little bit scary at times. And if you think about it, when you try to change lanes, you don't have mirrors like cars have mirrors. So you're kind of like turning your head back to see if there are any cars that you might run into.
So how was the ride in Beaker?
It was amazing.
Amazing?
I can't feel my butt, even though I have these little butt pads, but I can't feel it. My lower back is a bit like in pain, but it was amazing.
Why was it amazing?
So many like uphills and downhills. It was good practice.
And who was faster today?
I was significantly because of this bike, not because I'm fitter, but because of the bike.
I think you're also fitter when it comes to cycling.
Possibly, I don't know.
We did make it to Ku-ring-gai National Park, not quite to Akuta Bay where we had planned to go, but I'm pretty proud of that because it was quite a long ride, 65 k's, which is the longest I've done in a day.
My butt pads.
And this made me think why Sydney is so terrible for cycling. I mean, I know it's not fair to compare Sydney to like the Netherlands where they kind of built their roads around bike paths from the 70s onwards. But even in countries like Germany and Poland, they just have a much better bike path system and a much better culture around cycling. And I think that culture does play a big part in it here. I mean, people who cycle in Sydney are seen as cyclists, whereas people who drive in Sydney are not necessarily considered drivers. It's just a thing that you do, right? When you're like 16 or 17, you go get your driver's license, and it's not like we now refer to you as a driver. But because we never really had that history of bikes, it's become a bit of a niche thing in Sydney. And you know, as much as I love way more dedicated bike paths in Sydney, I just don't think Sydney's ever going to be a cycling city. Because I mean, Sydney's really, really sprawled. So people all the way out west in, say, Springwood probably aren't going to cycle into the city for work every day. But let's just say someone was game enough to cycle 75 kilometers each way every day. Don't forget that Sydney is really hilly. And I think this is a big deal because people don't want to rock up to work all sweaty from their cycle. Having said that, I do think it can work in like a local community setting, so I think we should all be cycling to the supermarket and back instead of driving if we live far away enough that we can't walk there. And if you're going to a friend's house that's a 5 to 10 minute drive away, maybe consider doing a 15-minute cycle instead. And I think the more of you that do it in just like a normal everyday or like work clothing, it'll make it seem like cycling is a mode of transport and isn't just like this niche sport thing where everyone has to wear lycra. On that note, I'm about to cycle to my friend's place for dinner, so don't forget to wear your helmet, and I will catch you next time.